Superior. So welcome to beautiful Superior, Wisconsin, and the WiSys SPARK Symposium, co-hosted by WiSys and UW Superior. We're really excited to be back here. My name is Arjun Sangha, and I'm the president of WiSys. And WiSys is an innovation organization that supports innovation across Wisconsin through our 11 University of Wisconsin regional campuses. In the past year, we went through a process where we looked at our mission and our vision, and we came up with 3 pillars that represent what we're doing today. The pillars are people, ideas, and the ecosystem. And the people are you, right? And we know that that people need support, and how do they navigate different processes to be able to get their ideas to fruition. And that's one of the things that all of our WiSys staff helps every day with all of you. The second is the ideas. We know that good ideas, if we want to get them to impact, that they need support, that the idea itself isn't sufficient. And we have these wonderful grant programs and support from the universities of Wisconsin that allow us to provide different grants to all of you, and Spark, Ignite, and launch grants to really get those ideas, from your bench and from your desks out into the public to impact. And then finally, the ecosystem. How are we creating this collaborative ecosystem and providing support across Wisconsin in all of the places so that each of you has the same resources as somebody else in another part of Wisconsin? And so we've been working on that, and we'll talk more about that. So thank you to UW Superior for their hospitality. So let's thank them for hosting us. And thank you for your partnership throughout the planning process. We've really, these events don't run without a lot of planning, and the partnership that we've had with UW Superior has been amazing. And I think that, a year in the making. And I recall at UW Oshkosh, when we had our last symposium, they're coming up to us and saying, we'd love to host it in UW Oshkosh. And a big thank you to the members of our SPARK steering committee. You can see, they really have worked very hard over the past year to make this a very smooth conference, and really been thoughtful about how to make this a very enjoyable and impactful experience for all of you. So let's give them a round of applause. And finally, as always, thank you to the Universities of Wisconsin and UW System Administration. They've been a partner from the very inception of WiSys, and we really appreciate that ongoing support from this administration and our regional campuses. So it's been a busy year since we last saw many of you at Oshkosh at the last symposium. We opened a new venture home location in Oshkosh. We hosted webinars for faculty and staff, hosted innovation on-ramps, a prototyping hackathon, 11 quick pitch competitions, and a big idea tournament. We also helped entrepreneurs through our Level Up pre-seed accelerator, and awarded over $800,000 through our Launch, Ignite, and Spark grants, and received nearly 60 invention disclosures. This isn't an all-encompassing list of what our WiSys staff does every day, but it's through programs like these that we can make the most impact with the Universities of Wisconsin's institutions and their surrounding communities. I wanted to pause a second to also acknowledge some of the people in the audience, because leadership matters, and we have several of our leaders here today who have, year after year at this symposium, our leaders across the system show up and are very engaged in what we're doing. And I think that that's an important part of what makes this go. So Dave Ward and Dave Bruchart. Dave Ward is our immediate past chair of the board, and he's now stepping down to be the chair of our finance committee. So he'll stay on the board. And Dave Bruchart is now going to be the chair of our board of trustees. I really appreciate the support that we get from our trustees. They are volunteers and they travel the state and they really spend a lot of time and energy in, supporting us and advocating for not only WiSys, but for our regional schools. So let's give them a round of applause. I'm not seeing Tim Higgins. I saw him this morning at breakfast, but I think he's here somewhere. Tim Higgins, and we're going to give out an award in his name later. He's a Regent Emeritus, and he also, has been to so many of these conferences and traveled the state and is a tireless supporter of higher education. So thank you to Tim. And we have two provosts, Provost Kuzo at UW Superior and Mike Carney at UW Eau Claire. And again, these, I don't know how many people, the administrative structure in universities, the provost is the chief academic officer, and it's an incredible job. I think that the amount of work that they do to, be the chief operating officer of a university is incredible. And I really appreciate that their support and the time that they take and the care that they take in participating in things like this, so that they are really engaged with what we're doing. So thank you both. Earlier this summer, an exciting thing happened for WiSys and our regional institutions. The United States Patent Office issued a report for a national strategy on inclusive innovation. And in that report, WiSys and the universities of Wisconsin were cited as part of that strategy. 4 times we were cited for programs that we have put forward as part of that national strategy and as a model for the nation about what we are doing to include students and faculty in innovation. And that's really exciting, and it's really a reflection on all of you. It's about you and the schools that comprise the universities of Wisconsin. And it's because of you and your work that we collectively receive national recognition like this. We're constantly thinking of innovation in different ways. And these things recognize the excellence of our schools. As the NSF director, Dr. Sethuram Panjanathan, has said, innovation anywhere, opportunities everywhere. So let's give yourselves a round of applause. We've also continued the work that we talked about last year regarding the NSF Engine Type 1 Development Grant. That award that provided $1 million for us to develop a sustainable agriculture engine that we're now calling Forward Agriculture shows how we're leading the way in regional innovation. We're now poised to compete for a full engine award. The Type 2 award would bring in up to $160 million and multiples of resources to the great state of Wisconsin over the next 10 years and would support the work that you do every day. Speaking of the engine, we've connected with the Wisconsin tribal community as a part of this. And through the Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Council, they've written us a letter to support the project and have committed to, and I quote, providing resources, including having liaising and facilitating partnerships with the tribes and tribal programs in Wisconsin. We are excited about this partnership because the 11 sovereign nations in Wisconsin have a unique innovation in sustainable agriculture that they have worked on from generation to generation that will have collective impact and that we can learn from as part of this engine. So once again, we're excited that you're here and we're ready for a great SPARK Symposium. So I hope you have a wonderful experience, and please let all of our staff know and if you need anything. And now I'd like to invite Chancellor Wachter up to say a few words and welcome us to Superior. Thank you.
Again, a very warm welcome to the University of Wisconsin-Superior. I hope everybody that we didn't see last night, that your travels went well and you've had a chance to take in the spectacular beauty that is the Northland here in Wisconsin and Superior. We are very delighted to host this 17th conference, bringing the best and brightest innovators from across the state. I do want to talk a little bit about how we consider innovation here at the university. We talk about ourselves as the anchor of the North, sort of that northmost anchor in the constellation that is the universities of Wisconsin campuses spread across the state. And I think being that anchor, that grounding of support for our region is important, and it's actually embedded in our mission. We have a line in there that says that we foster intellectual growth and career preparation with a liberal arts foundation that emphasizes individual attention, embodies respect for diverse cultures and multiple voices, and engages the community in the region. And I do believe that our university, and actually all of our universities, have a tremendous responsibility and role to be that spark, that catalyst, that enabler for our campus community and for our region. We can convene, much like we're doing here today. We can forge partnerships, we can devote resources, and we can create environments to propel innovation. At UWS, we live that mission by being deeply embedded in our communities and proactively linking arms to create a student experience that focuses on experiential learning and creativity, that supports the faculty in their endeavors and in their support of students, and creates a vibrant spirit of innovation that goes far beyond our walls. We know as human beings that we learn and are inspired by watching others, but also by doing. And that stumbles are sometimes just as valuable as successes. Ask any entrepreneur. Over the last decade, we have invested and ramped up those mechanisms that contribute to a strong spirit of collaboration, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Every class, every class, has an experiential learning component. I know, we counted them, we went through every syllabus as part of our strategic plan. The creation of the Link Center several years ago, our vision was that it was going to be that path maker. Their role is to link the student and faculty creativity and innovation to our community and beyond. Academic service learning takes what happens in the classroom and translates that into a real world, and is a chance for students to build new skills and gain confidence. At the other bookend, a required capstone in every discipline is another opportunity to exercise innovation. And in the middle, the undergraduate research program and summer undergraduate research program gives students the opportunity to begin by dipping their toes into the world of research and entrepreneurship with mini grants, all the way up to full immersion experiences. Mentored by a faculty member, our students design and conduct their own project. And the work coming out of our computer sciences students, told you, Sergey, I was going to give you a shout out, is really pretty impressive. Actually, they're all pretty impressive. Our research centers, such as the Lake Superior Research Institute, the Great Lakes Maritime Research Center, the Lake Superior National Estuarine Research Reserve, and the Transportation and Logistics Research Center, provide further intellectual fuel and opportunity. And we have created deep and marvelous partnerships with our economic development agencies. You saw that in the Entrepreneurship Center downtown, that enable faculty, students, and staff to leverage each other to drive innovation. From fledgling internships with startups to incubation space and programming, the supports are there to help launch the future. And the arrival of the Sadie Ann, the new floating classroom and research vessel, sustainably equipped with hybrid engines, we believe the first of its kind in this part of the Great Lakes, is another opportunity for innovation. And I think that's just the beginning of what we can do. As creative human beings, we sometimes just need the right encouragement or supports or environment to reach our potential. Our mission is to provide just that. I remember when I first started here and I was giving a talk on economic development and innovation, and I used the phrase that a rising tide lifts all boats. We want to keep seeing that tide rise. And I think that's a great way to end opening remarks from a campus situated on one of the greatest of the Great Lakes. Enjoy the rest of the symposium. It's wonderful to have you here. Catch that spark and have a truly superior couple of days.
Really like that. Have a superior day. That's awesome. So I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, and I'd ask you to review his bio in the program. I'm not going to go over that. I think that's terrific, and frankly, it's very impressive. But what I can tell you firsthand about our speaker is that I've had a chance to get to know Sam over the last many years, actually, in different capacities. And he's just a terrific public servant. And I think that my experience with Sam is that he's very engaged and deeply committed to the economic health of Wisconsin. He understands the role of higher education, research, and innovation, what they play and how they interact with the quality of life for all Wisconsinites. So I just wanted to give you a couple of examples and then turn it over to Sam, because that's who we want to hear from. But we've served together on the Wisconsin Science Festival Board, or committee. And, that has helped, and he could see from his commitment to that, how do we spread that understanding of the role of science and its importance to Wisconsin? And I think that him being on there, not only providing his intellectual input, but the symbolism of that is really important. He's supported WiSys Venture Home throughout its inception and launching, and in different ways. And personally, he was there for the launching of our venture home, Green Bay. And I think that, I could regale you with other examples, but the idea that somebody that is the chief operating officer of the WEDC and the deputy secretary of commerce, the fact that he is visible and present across the state is really an important signal for all of us. And then finally, there are WEDC programs that have not only supported WiSys, but the work that we're all doing. They've matched $350,000 of WiSys money to create a fund through their Capital Catalyst program, so that we can seed great ideas that are coming out of our schools all across Wisconsin. They gave us awarded us $100,000 in an entrepreneur matching grant to really support and make the Venture Home Network go. And then finally, they provided us with additional seed money, most recently, as we're working on this NSF Engine grant, to be able to help us with the data collection for the engine, so that we can produce some shared metrics that can help us evaluate the health and value of the engine. So I'm really excited to hear from Sam, and let's give him a warm round of applause. So welcome him, keynote speaker.
morning. Hello. It is delightful to wake up in Superior, Wisconsin. Thanks a lot. The amazing light when you're on the Great Lakes, the light you wake up to in a place like this is different than almost anywhere else in the state. I love it. Arjun, thank you for the really kind welcome. I want to start with just celebrating WiSys for a minute. Arjun walked through some of the really accomplishments, the success WiSys has had, not just this year, but over the last several years. And they should absolutely be celebrated. But I want to really dig in and really congratulate WiSys and all the work that has gone into the successful NSF Development Award, $1 million awarded back to Wisconsin and back to WiSys. That's an incredible feat that a lot of folks competed for, and not a lot of folks brought that money home. But when I think about celebrating WiSys, and Arjun did this in a way in his opening remarks, it makes me ask, what are we celebrating? Last night, Jason from the Farm Bureau quoted Daniel Webster, and that was a pretty big feat to follow. So I'm going to break out a little French this morning, and I had to listen to online to how to pronounce it, but the raison d'être, the reason for being of WiSys is the researchers, the innovators, and the entrepreneurs that stretch across our 11 campuses. And so the congratulations and the accomplishments that WiSys deserves wouldn't happen if it wasn't because of the folks that it exists to serve. So congratulations to all of you as well. In a very similar way, your state's economic development arm, WEDC, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, we exist in a very similar way. We have a mission of creating an economy for all, where every Wisconsinite has the opportunity to thrive. But guess what? We don't create an economy for all. We don't do anything to create an economy. Businessmen and women, community members and their folks that come together, folks are part of a university or our tech schools, they're the ones actually creating the economy for all. We just are hopefully a supportive partner facilitating a lot of that. And so I see a lot of similarities between WiSys and how it sees itself and the role it provides, and ours just at a different level or kind of focus. I want to dig into the focus of this year's SPARK Symposium, really the connection between our researchers, the innovators, and then the entrepreneurs, and the connective tissue between those three. But before I do that, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a tour around WEDC and the state, because we feel that in the last 6 months, it's only a half year in, that Wisconsin in many ways is having a moment. Within the last couple of months, we've been able to really celebrate a $3.3 billion investment by one of our largest and most successful tech companies, Microsoft, in the southeast corner of our state. And that wasn't just capital investment. There'll be jobs associated with that. But it's what Microsoft describes, it will be the crown jewel of its AI focus. And so next, we reflect on that. WEDC serves as a co-chair on the governor's AI task force. And so when that investment is happening in Wisconsin, and we know that AI and how it will revolutionize the parts of our economy that really keep it churning, what are those parts? The agriculture, the manufacturing, our university systems, how we learn, and certainly commerce generally. It's really exciting that that investment and that focus is happening here in Wisconsin. But that wasn't even the most exciting thing about Microsoft's announcement. What they said after they talked about the dollars invested, they said, oh yeah, and we are placing our 7th co-innovation lab in the state of Wisconsin, in Milwaukee. There are 6 others across the world, Microsoft co-innovation labs. 2 of them are in California and Redmond, Washington, where Microsoft's based. The other 4 are across the world. And then the 7th, it's in Wisconsin, and it's in Milwaukee. And where is it in Milwaukee? It's at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee at its Connected Systems Institute. So if you think about the power of this institution that all of you are part of, the universities of Wisconsin, there are massive investments because folks recognize the work already happening at our universities. But that's just part of the story in the last 6 months. About 2 months ago, WDC announced the establishment of the Wisconsin Investment Fund. We were able to take $50 million in federal funds, and we were able to put those and co-invest those dollars with venture funds from across the country with really one requirement. Venture funds, we need you to agree to co-invest with us in Wisconsin startups that are coming out of the research and innovation that are happening all over the state that many of you are driving. This is the single largest public-private investment that the state of Wisconsin has experienced in its time. One of the really neat things about it is its focus will be on underserved communities. So the companies that we will co-invest with, those other 6 venture firms will co-invest in communities that are rural in nature, that are otherwise underserved in nature. And there's one fund in particular which ties into WiSys' NSF focus, which has a real focus on food and ag. And so whether it's the infusion of investment through Microsoft, the infusion of investment through the Wisconsin Investment Fund, what we know is that that sort of investment, that drives innovation. Investment drives innovation. We know that, right? This certainly the PIs and the students know that. They know that it takes money to drive research, but it also takes a lot more than money. It takes a lot more than dollars and cents to the type of investment. But we know that investment isn't just financial. We know that investment comes from blood, sweat, and tears. It is an investment that really is over time in institutions that really support that. And that's where I see Wisconsin being different than many other places in the country. We continue to invest, but I think more importantly, we have been investing in our universities and in our technical schools for generations. It hasn't just become fashionable in Wisconsin to invest in the institutions that all of you hail from. I grew up in Stoughton, Wisconsin. I was born in 1975, and I was raised by a public school teacher. And I can remember growing up in Stoughton, which was a small town then. It's still a small town, but it's no longer like 7,000. It's more like 12 to 14,000 as it creeps up toward Madison. But I can remember being so proud and saying, this was what I was told as a kid. You know, short of California and New York, which as states have the largest and most robust system of university schools, Wisconsin's number 3. No other state other than New York and California, these behemoth states, invest and have invested over time as much in their state university system as the state of Wisconsin had. And of course, it made me feel proud growing up. But what it did, and what I see now in my role, is the amount of innovation that it drives. So those investments, not necessarily of money, but commitment by leaders, by PIs, by researchers, by faculty, by students over time, have really helped drive the innovation in Wisconsin that I think is really different and separates us from a lot of other places. And what are the results? And this really comes down to the Wisconsin idea. And I'm sure a lot of you hear about that, think about that. We certainly do. The marriage of our university system, the marriage of private enterprise, and the marriage of the state all coming together. What do? They really produce incredible results. They produce the discovery of vitamin D. They produce the discovery and the forwarding of the stem cell therapy that has revolutionized healthcare and medical care across the country. And now what we're seeing in Wisconsin is really the sector of biohealth and personalized medicine that just maybe a month ago, we learned that Wisconsin was one of only 12 regional tech hubs that were funded, this time to the tune of about $50 million, because the federal government recognizes that personalized medicine and the economy around it is at the edge of glory here in Wisconsin, unlike any other place in the country. So I want to, with that as a set of context, now turn to WiSys and particularly the NSF award that it recently was awarded. $1 million, that's nothing to sneeze at. And as Arjun talked about, it gave them the platform now to chase $160 million in investment. it's another opportunity, like stem cells, like vitamin D, like the biohealth field, for Wisconsin to again lead the world, and discover new ways that we're able to adapt our agricultural practices, really to ensure a more sustainable future. When we think, and probably when you think about innovation, there's innovation, and then there's innovation. And as I was thinking about that, and what's the difference? And sometimes when there's that small I innovation, it actually is still important because over time it leads, the finding there lead to that innovation. But when I think of what is innovation in all caps, I think of folks that are set off to tackle some of our biggest problems, right? Whether that's the declining biodiversity, whether that's climate change, whether that's labor inequity, or the unsustainable resource use. Those are the challenges that that WiSys's NSF pursuit are looking to tackle. And that's why the NSF effort that they're pursuing really is pursuing that type of innovation with all caps. Why is that important to Wisconsin? And why is that important to feeding the future for Wisconsin? Well, what we know is that the ag economy alone in the state of Wisconsin, that's a $105 billion economy annually. Think about that. $105 billion annually is our ag economy. I think you would argue that between manufacturing and ag, it might be second or first, kind of depending how you look at it. But then if you look more deeply at the other sectors of our economy that ag economy really, really pushes, think of our food and beverage economy. Think of Top Chef. Who here saw Wisconsin featured on Top Chef in the last 6 months, right? The restaurants, the culture we have with food. Think also of an $800 million investment by Kikkoman Foods. Kikkoman, if you like soy sauce. Kikkoman just announced in rural Wisconsin, in Jefferson and Walworth counties. Kikkoman, about a month and a half ago, just announced that it was doubling down on an initial investment it made, investing $800 million in rural Wisconsin, because it knows that Wisconsin at its heart is an ag state, right? That it's part of our economy. But it goes more deeply than just our economy. And Jason from Farm Bureau last night talked about it a little bit. It's part of our ethos, right? That being an ag state that goes back generations, whether we wake up and we work in an office or on a factory floor or at a university, it's that ethos of knowing that, you know what, there's still a lot of work to do. How many times if you grew up in Wisconsin, even if you didn't grow up on a dairy farm, you know the story of the dairy farmer. You know the story of the dairy farmer. Guess what she can't do very often? She can't take a lot of vacations, right? Because she's got to stay home. Those cows have to be milked. And she's got to wake up in different parts of the year, rain or shine, warm or cold, and she's got to wake up and milk those cows. And so it's just part of whether or not I didn't grow up on a farm. I didn't grow up on a dairy farm, but I certainly know those stories. I also know that you got to work real hard, and you have to do a lot of work until all the work is done at the end of the day. The barn's swept out, the lab's cleaned up, the trial is done. You just can't end it a little this morning half-assed. I can probably say that. I can say that this morning. That's just been part of our ethos, and I think that's what many of you in this room embody. And that entrepreneurship, we know, isn't about just having the idea, right? It's then all the work and the process that it takes to take that idea and turn it into reality. And as I actually didn't know it was in front of me as Arjun was speaking this morning, because I saw it on his slides. Eureka is absolutely, it isn't a moment. Having the idea is not it. It's taking that moment and that idea and using that farmer agricultural based ethos and turning that in through hard work into a reality. And so that's what's really exciting to me about the work that WiSys and all of you are doing. It is also reflective, I think, the moment that we're having here in Wisconsin. I'm going to end by sharing a small video that we produced to air alongside with the work we did really to support all the food work that was featured in Wisconsin. But what this does for me when I play this video, it's a video that takes all of the energy and the hard work and the momentum that we feel, and you can really feel it, and it launches us into the next steps. We'll get some sound here. We'll try it one more time. You ready? Try it now. It's not working. "15 seconds." But it's a state where we're all from, and it's a momentum that we're going, and I feel like this group is going. So, Arjun, thank you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure to come up here. Thanks.
Are you welcome to take a few questions?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, I'll start it off, but we have a mic. If any of you have any questions for Sam, just raise your hand and we'll bring the mic to you. So Sam, maybe, you talked a little bit about it, but I think if you could just go a little bit more in depth of the importance of our regional schools, the faculty and the students at those schools, and the ideas that they have to the economy of Wisconsin. Maybe talk a little bit about, as you know, we have these 11 regional schools, and we have 2 R1s. Let's just talk a little bit about the role of those schools in kind of taking these things forward.
Yeah. First, I'll share with you how I feel, and then I'll talk a little bit about numbers, because I think where we invest dollars demonstrate the importance that the state and WDC sees in that. We know that a quarter of all new jobs in Wisconsin are created by startups. We know from data that where are startups coming from? Startups are coming from ideas. Startups are coming from novel ideas that by and large are spinning out of our universities, and not just University of Wisconsin-Madison. They're spinning out of universities all over our state. They're spinning out of research happening all over our state. Sometimes they're happening through PIs, and sometimes we see it right from students who are inspired from the learning, and they jump into places like Venture Home, and they're able to take ideas that they've started to formulate during their years at the university, and really take them forward. I will say that one of the single largest investments in any one institution every year for the history, certainly of WEDC, and I suspect our predecessor, the Department of Commerce, has been in the University of Wisconsin system, now the Universities of Wisconsin. And in particular, we don't spend our dollars or invest our limited resources into capital projects or dorms or things like that. The lion's share of those dollars are invested into entrepreneurial programs of our university system, because we know that over time, long-term, the ROI pays the state back. And so it's a clear investment decision of the state looking for where are the best places to invest for the highest ROI, not for the ROI for this year, but longer term ROI for the well-being of the state.
Thank you. Again, if there's any questions, please raise your hand. Maybe talk a little bit, you just mentioned Venture Home and the Venture Home Network, and you all put in a couple of investments into that network. Where do you see, or what are the gaps that it might be filling, or what made WEDC think this is a good pathway to invest in?
I'll answer that by sharing an anecdote. I was in Wausau last week. I was at North Central Tech in Wausau, and there, one of the funds that received co-investment, $10 to $15 million of the Wisconsin Investment Fund, was a Madison-based fund. And it's called HealthX. If you're into venture, it's one of the more prominent health-focused venture funds in our state. And in it, the head of that fund said, "Sam, I'm hearing through this effort that there's a real desire to really dig deeper to find those entrepreneurs beyond the urban centers of Madison and Milwaukee." And he said, in my experience, we know that folks are there with ideas. And so we're really challenged by you and by this effort to really dig deeper into those markets. And in this case, we were talking about central Wisconsin. But the point is that if one of the more sophisticated investors who's looking for returns for folks that are investing with his fund knows that there are tremendous ideas and entrepreneurs coming out from all parts of our state, from all parts of our universities broadly, and he's willing to invest, it just shows the untapped potential that venture homes across our state, that other accelerators can provide. We work through Venture Home. We also work directly with other university systems that jumps to mind, Oshkosh being one of them, others, UW Green Bay another, where they are setting up their own funds to then fund their students and faculty starting off business from it. So I think there's just such untapped opportunity. I just always wonder what we're missing.
A couple more questions. Oh, we'll go ahead.
And thank you, Mr. Sam Rakers, for your excellent presentation. I'm just wondering, like,
Maybe introduce yourself.
Pardon?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. I'm a professor in sustainable management and economics, Saqib Mahmood at UWS. So I have a question regarding, we see agriculture and manufacturing is highlighted, and even Microsoft is investing around $3 billion, for AI. So I'm just wondering, like, what is the next one that you are thinking? Is it renewable energy or something else? And how the UW campuses, colleges can help? Thank you.
That's a great question. That is one of the other major sectors. We are in the process of setting up the Green Innovation Fund at WDC, our state's first green bank. There are about 21, it's probably growing now, green banks across the country. But what it recognizes is not just the climate crisis we're facing, but the incredible economic opportunity as we look at energy and how we can become more self-sustaining in our energy supply. I think that's going to be it. I also see, and this is really following kind of the leads of the federal government, and we saw through the pandemic, the incredible opportunity and need for us to reshore manufacturing here, but in particular, reshore manufacture of semiconductors. In the last 2-3 years, my eyes have just been opened at how much semiconductors probably to sadly rule my life. My cell phone's over there. I always grab it when I think of all the ways that I rely on those semiconductors. We have a Chevy Volt plug-in hybrid that has been sitting at a shop in Fond du Lac where it broke down for the last 4 months. We're still driving a loaner because the supply chain of critical electronic pieces for that car, the car works fine except for that little electronic piece. And Chevrolet over 4 months can't get it. And so there are some real kind of constraints still in our economy that were highlighted during the pandemic that I see as opportunities for us to invest in and for the new market opportunities really to grow. Yes.
Go ahead.
We as Maria Cuso, Provost, UW Superior. We as universities are very grateful for the opportunity to write for WEDC grant funds and other program opportunities. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. So can you give 2 or 3 suggestions as to how to write a magnificent WEDC grant proposal?
I'd be happy. Let me first say that we are trying to make the process, and it's not as simple as it sounds, easier. That's one of the things that we need to do. We all have bosses. One of our bosses is the auditors in our state government. So they want to make sure that certain things are there, but that is something that still doesn't stop us from making it easier for folks that are writing for grants to go through that process. I think one of the things that is most compelling about, I'd say 2 things, most compelling about successful grant applications are when it really complex concepts are written in really understandable language that, from an economic developer's standpoint, we're not experts in a particular field, but it resonates with a larger problem that effort is trying to tackle. So that's number one. The other piece that I would say really was highlighted for me when I saw the successful grant applications for the workforce innovation grants. And now I look back and I see Provost Carney back there in the back of the room. There were about 250 to 300 coalitions across Wisconsin that wrote applications, and only about 27 of them were funded, but were able to award over $125 million. And this was tackling workforce challenges, but there were a lot of ways people did that. What you saw in the successful applicants were they realized that they weren't tackling it by themselves. That the reason why University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire's application was so successful was not because they saw the notice of funding opportunity appear and they thought, well, let me scramble really quickly and pull together partnerships that we could put a grant together. No, they were already working with businesses in their community. They were already working with the Mayo Clinic. They already, as part of their practice, were seeing that to tackle big problems, we need to partner with folks. And that's the other recommendation, is really to see how you can leverage one another in a community or a region to be successful.
And that's also a good plug for Gina, if you want to raise your hand. Our research development office. So one of the aspects of WiSys is that we have a group that's there to support you in learning how to write a successful proposal for different agencies. And I think, Sam, you just talked about that. How are we putting it in plain English and helping people who are from different walks of life understand, kind of our ideas.
Arjun, we have a follow-up.
One last question we have time for.
Thanks, Deputy Secretary Rickers. Mike Carney, Provost at UW-Eau Claire. One thing I would like to ask about the Workforce Innovation Grant is, I know that these grants are still in flight and that will take some time to assess the impact of the grants, but has there been a conversation at the state level about continuing that sort of a program in the future? I realize it will take some time to figure out if it was worth the investment, but I can tell from personal experience, it has allowed us to do things that we never would have imagined being able to do and get a jump start. You talk about seeding the future. It was helping us seed the future.
I think there is, Mike, and here's why. Right now, the single biggest challenge to our economy on a day-to-day basis, not future. I'm not talking about where sustainable ag and climate are going. I'm not talking about the clean energy revolution or semiconductors and the need for that, but I'm talking about what businessmen and businesswomen and probably administrators of universities and colleges think about as, where am I going to find the talent and the people I need to keep doing what I do, whether it's do the best and brightest research around provide the best education, or make the best widgets, or best milk the best cows, right? Is that, where am I going to find the people? And because the demographic trends of our state are such that those demographics aren't changing, what that means is that you need a collaboration of folks from all sectors of your state, your economy, public, private sector, to build a case to make big investments. And so let me give an example of what I think are two of the biggest workforce constraints right now in our state, and that is the lack of affordable and accessible childcare for families across Wisconsin, and the dearth of housing that we have available. Now, I would say 10 years ago, 20 years ago, housing and childcare, those were social issues that social service agencies, public agencies would deal with. Let the market handle the rest, right? Today, it's very different. They are not issues of that we talk about social services or the welfare state. They are absolutely part of our economy, and businesses are clamoring for more investment in childcare, are clamoring for more investment in housing. businesses are clamoring for more investment in retraining at our incredible institutions. And so because I see businesses and other parts of the state being part of that clamor, I think there's an opportunity that we would see at least a state-funded version of the Workforce Innovation Grant in the future. If we don't, we better have some other grant solution, because there's some real challenges that our economy is facing.
Thank you so much for a great start to our conference. We really appreciate you taking the time and the inspirational words and all the work that you're doing at the WEDC. Let's give Sam a round of applause. Thank you. I think